Apparently, Ohana does not mean family, and it does not mean no one gets left behind. At least that's what I'm hearing about the Lilo and Stitch live action remake. And the director only made it worse with this bizarre interview he did where it's clear he misunderstood the values presented in the original one. Now, there will be spoilers for the Lilo and Stitch live action remake. So if you're not okay with that, I understand. Go watch an older video that you haven't seen yet. Otherwise, sit back, relax, and welcome to Studio Jake. 'Cause I've been living life right like I could just die any minute, going for a ride down the Hi everyone, my name is Jacob Berry. Welcome to the Studio Jake vidcast where I talk about all things pop culture. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, and if you're watching on YouTube, ring that little bell so you get notifications when I post a new vidcast and consider becoming a channel member. After the video, check out my website, studiojakemedia.substack.com, where I have even more news, views, and reviews about all your favorite pop culture topics. Okay, so I have not seen the movie yet, so I can't really give a review of it. I am reacting to things that I have read online because sadly, even though I do my best to not read spoilers, sometimes people's reaction is so visceral that spoilers are shown to me just because of my doom scrolling. So that's what happened in the case of the Lilo and Stitch live action remake. Now, for those of you who don't know, the original Lilo and Stitch came out in 2002, so I would have been 14 when it came out, and I enjoyed it. I remember my family, we all went to see it in the theaters, and we had a really good time. My sister was real big into the whole Disney thing. She was more into Disney princesses, but still, she liked Disney, and I liked some Disney stuff, but definitely I did enjoy Lilo and Stitch. It was a really good kind of twist because Disney doesn't do a whole lot of science fiction. They definitely do dramas and action and fantasy, but they don't do a lot of sci-fi. Let's be real. I mean, you can name Treasure Planet, Meet the Robinsons maybe, but there's not a whole lot in their theatrical films that are sci-fi based. So I thought that the movie was really good. It was a really big part of my childhood. It was a much beloved story about an older sister raising her younger sister, and they discovered that this blue fuzzy alien is in fact an alien. They think he's a dog at first, and then there are two aliens, his creator and this sort of anthropologist alien, that are following him around and trying to recapture him to bring him back into space. And there's a social worker who is trying to take Lilo away from her older sister. The older sister's name is Nani, by the way, and the social worker's name is Cobra Bubbles. And through a lot of antics, they end up staying together, and the aliens kind of become Nani and Lilo's sort of makeshift family, and that's how it concludes. And the TV show spinoff continues that vibe, as well as the sequels, because I think there was one called Stitch the movie that was more of a pilot for the animated series, and then they did a film I think called Stitch Has a Glitch, and then another film where he has to get all the experiments together to stop an evil experiment, which I think is experiment 627. Anyway, there's your big Stitch canon. So in this year, they released the Lilo and Stitch remake. A lot of people were troubled by a couple of things. For one thing, the space cop, who looks like kind of a giant shark that stands upright, he is absent from the film, and they turned the scientist that created Stitch into a villain when in fact in the original he's not. He kind of starts off as a villain, but then he has a redemption arc. But in this one he's just a straight up villain, and he doesn't actually want to take Stitch away because he might be dangerous for Earth. He actually wants to take him away to continue his experiments on him. And there's a really great line in the original film where someone calls him an evil scientist, and he says, "No, I'm a mad genius." Well, in the live action remake, he says, "I'm a deranged genius," which that means two totally different things. So apparently, though, where most people have the contention is with the ending. So like I said, in the animated ending, Nani and Lilo, they keep Stitch, and then the other aliens kind of become their makeshift family, and they all have photos together and just live in Hawaii celebrating Ohana. Ohana means family, and family means no one gets left behind. Not so in the live action remake. In the live action remake, apparently, Nani has dreams of becoming a marine biologist, and the film ends where she actually allows Lilo to become a ward of the state, and she abandons her to go to college, and Lilo and Stitch end up staying with a neighbor because I guess the state decided that that was a good thing. The neighbor apparently is a new character created for the live action movie because I don't recall a neighbor in the 2002 animated film. They kind of have a cheat ending in a mid credits or post credit scene where Nani uses like a one of the alien teleport devices to come visit Lilo and Stitch, and they all like hug or something at the end of the movie. I find that reprehensible that Nani would abandon her sister to pursue a marine biologist. And the director, like so many of these sort of postmodern films, that he wants to chime in and he only made things worse. And in my opinion, it kind of sounded like he didn't even watch the original. I know that sounds outlandish to say, so I'm going to read you a quote from an interview that he did. Now, a lot of people were saying that he made this quote in reaction to the backlash of the film, but that's actually not true. He was talking to Deadline, giving an interview, and this is before the online backlash. But again, I don't think that he realized that this would do damage to the film. So Deadline, remember they're part of the corporate press, so they're probably paid off by Disney because I read the whole interview. It's a fluff piece, but I just want to hone in on this one question and this one answer. So this is Deadline. There's this resonating theme about the imperfect family, in addition to changes in the story about Nani having these career ambitions as a marine biologist. Why were these themes important for your version of the film? Kant replies, I'm so glad you noticed that. I think that was one of the things that we talked about. Thematically modernizing and updating for the live action version was broadening the idea of Ohana and complicating it with a little more nuance. It just felt like the right thing to do, given that Nani, who I always felt was a little too rose colored glasses for somebody in her situation, was so smart and had to abandon a lot of these themes or defer them because she had to take care of her little sister and inherited all this responsibility at such a young age. It just felt like she might not have had such an easy time buying into nobody gets left behind because she certainly would feel like, well, I'm struggling here. So that informed the approach that we took with the story and with the arc between the two sisters and what the resolution ended up being. Rose colored glasses? Did he, like I said, this makes me think he didn't even watch the 2002 film. Maybe he picked up, Disney releases storybooks, kind of like kids' storybooks to promote the films. I wonder if he actually read that and that's what he did. Because did you hear what he said? Modernizing and updating. Lilo and Stitch is from 2002. It doesn't need to be updated and modern. There's no such thing as a modern audience. If it was, all of these woke films that I complain about on this channel a lot would just break the bank, but they don't. But here's this guy claiming that Nani was looking at things from rose colored glasses. No, she doesn't. She struggles. She gets fired from her job. She has to desperately try to find a new one so that Lilo doesn't get taken away from her. She does everything for her sister. It's a sacrifice. And Nani struggles with that sacrifice because that's what happens in a family. Clearly, this guy grew up with a silver spoon in his mouth because no one who has actually had to sacrifice for family would say something so ridiculous. And I just think it's really sad because that could have been a great thing to promote. That yes, Nani did have some dreams, and yes, she did have to sacrifice, but it was worth it for family. Sometimes you have to sacrifice for family. Not everything turns out perfectly in the world. That's just the way life is. But sacrificing for your family, especially if that family loves you and they work, and yes, you fight, you scream at each other sometimes, you get into heated arguments, you don't always get what you want. But in the end, family should be a cohesive unit that goes on this journey together. I've had to sacrifice for my family, they've had to sacrifice for me. My super cute wife, same situation. She's had to sacrifice for her family time and time again, and we all just keep moving on. And it is so sad that he decided that Nani is just going to be a girl boss. She's going to leave her little sister with some neighbor, and she's going to go off and become a marine biologist, and it's going to be, gee golly, swell for her. It's the same situation that Peter and Wendy had, where Wendy has like this vision of herself because she doesn't want to become a mother. And it shows her dying a really sad, pathetic death where she's just alone in a house and with a cat. They literally turn Wendy into a crazy cat lady, and they're doing the same thing to Nani. It's a constant thing. Now, I don't usually go by this route, but we're going to play by their rules for a second. So, the director of this movie, Camp, he is the one who made all these changes to the story. He admits this in interviews. He said, I changed the ending. I did this. I did that. I removed this character. So he has no one to blame but himself for this backlash. I kind of find it interesting. Just a few years ago, the people on the far left that Hollywood aligns with, they were complaining about scandals where indigenous children were being taken from their parents to be civilized by the government authorities. That this happened in the United States for sure, but more so in Canada. Canada was awful to their First Nations peoples. They were complaining about this. And yet here is Disney literally releasing a film where an indigenous child gets separated from her guardian and becomes a ward of the state and then gets shoved into the home of a neighbor that the state deems appropriate for her. I find that kind of interesting, don't you? If you like that video, be sure to give it a like, share it out to all your friends, leave me a comment, tell what you think, and subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, ring that little bell so you get notifications when I post a new vidcast, and consider becoming a channel member. If you want to support me and the work that I do, head on over to my website, studiojakemedia.substack.com. Most of my articles you can read for free, but if you do a subscription, it unlocks different perks throughout, and some you get to pick the topic that I cover. So head on over there, sign up. I think you'll like it. There's also a buy my book section where you can purchase my novels. I have 4 out right now, and you can get them all through the links on my website. If you want to learn more about my books, head on over to studiojakemedia.locals.com, where I post my poems and short stories as well as articles on the writing process. It's basically my author page, so you can find out more there. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time right here on Studio Jake.